So we're doing back and we're doing turtle. So we'll start, seated. Sorry. And so we're gonna focus on maintaining the back on the strong side, right? So I have my hooks in, I have my seatbelt, so one over, one under, staying real tight, always protecting my choking arm here. So I'm gonna go to my strong side. Strong side is because I can control and I can choke him with my right side, versus if I was like this would be my weak side because my bottom hand is not the strong and I would have to go to my strong side and finish him. So the first thing we're gonna do is just standard, right? If he sheds the top hook and he's on top of it, right here, before he goes all the way over, right? So how do we recover from this position? So the main thing is we have our bottom hook to forward snake. But you'll notice that if I just forward snake from here, there's nothing blocking his right hip. So if I forward snake, he can still hop over my foot, which is gonna be problematic. So if you're in this position, keep your elbows in tight, because if your elbows are loose, it's easier for him to slip his elbow, create the wedge, and then start to make space. So keep your elbows in nice and tight. We're gonna step over with this foot and keep him nice and close. Now we can stomp down to the ground, adjust, have my long hook and short hook, and then I'm on the weak side. So again, just standard fundamentals, right? Seatbelt, hooks, protecting. Here, he's clearing that hook. I immediately want to block his hip so then he can't continue to go over the top, because if I'm here and I start snaking, he'll just nudge out, creating that wedge and creating space. So I want to block the hip, drive my foot in, forward snake, go to the opposite side, and then stomp on his hip. One more time. Hooks, seatbelt, strong side. He starts to go over. Remember, elbows in, nice and tight. If my elbows are loose, he can start to jump out, create a wedge, and then start coming up. So I'm blocking, planting onto the balls of my feet, driving, forward snake, go to my weak side, long hook, short hook, and then stomping. So it's just basic recovery from losing your bottom hook with strong side. Okay, any questions? All right, 1, 2, 3. So on the first one, we went to our strong side. He shed the top hook, but I still have chest to back connection. So that's why I was able to block the hip, drive my toes, forward snake, and go onto this side. So now we go to that strong side, and then I lose the chest to back connection. So he's here. I could go this way, but the thing is that you want to stay tight with your partner, because the moment that you go here, right, he's going to create that wedge, and now he's going to snake out and get to guard. So when you're here, I want you to make sure that your elbows are in tight, so he can't create the wedge with his left elbow. Then my left foot has to stay tight to my butt, because I need to have control so he doesn't continue to make space, right? And now once I'm here, I'm gonna get to my right elbow and then drive my toes so I can get him onto his side. Once we're here, my right knee comes up and I chair sit and I go to my weak side. So it's just a standard chair sit. Here, we'll scoot a little bit. So once he goes, I stay real tight, but I lose connection with my chest and his back. I keep my foot really close. I start driving onto my elbow, driving to my toe to get him onto his side. Knee comes up, I cut through, and then I have my long hook and my short hook. And I'm on the weak side. One more time. Because ultimately, if I have the back, I want to stay real tight. Ear to ear, elbows in tight, so then when he starts to clear it, I shouldn't lose connection with his back and my chest. But if I do for some reason, keeping this tight. Elbow, driving, you can step over to cut through, depending on what your style is. Okay, any questions? All right, 1, 2, 3. I go to the strong side and he hops over both hooks, right? So if there's like no gap like this, I can easily scissor my legs, come up, and then go right to the same thing. But if there's a larger gap, or we're here.
So what do we do from here? Because if I start walking towards him, he's just gonna walk away from me. So I wanna scissor my legs after I've gone almost parallel in line with Fami. I'm gonna scissor and then get to my knees. Then I'm gonna go elbow to knee and start to sit them up. And watch my feet. I pivot, I step, and I do a little squat. Step over, right back into it. Long hook, short hook. So it's important that you're in line with your partner and you're creating space. So your partner goes, right? And he's way far. And I feel like I just can't cover that distance. So I'm gonna snake out so I'm in line, scissor, and I can even walk up like this. Now it's gonna be hard for me to just throw one leg over because of the distance. And then my other foot is gonna have no hook in there. So I wanna step up. And then I can start falling to my side, putting my hook in, and getting right back to my seatbelt. Let's turn like this. So if he hops over and he's close to you, like this, it's easy for me to scissor, come up, and retake the back. But if he's far, because he's trying to create space, I scissor and I start walking up. Step, over, and then I go. You can even body lock if your partner's not so big and you have long legs. All right, so one more time. Let's face this way to get all different angles. Come over the top. I want to be in line with Fami, like this. Then I can scissor and start walking up. This is good. If you're flexible, you can jump right into the back from here. If not, pivot, step, throw it over, and then stop. Okay, questions? All right, 1, 2, 3. But because he does this escape, that really bothers me. So he's here, he goes 2-on-1 and he passes the arm here. So that's like super frustrating because if you try to come up, he's blocking my elbow, right? So I can't pull him back onto me using this grip. There's just not a lot of force. But since he has a 2-on-1, I can go with the underhook here, lift a little bit, and go for my claw grip. So once I have that claw, my left foot is gonna go right over the top because I need to stop him from creating space and going away. Because if I'm here, he can create space and go away, start turning into me and create, yes, like that. So, you're gonna start at the top. So this one's a little bit uncomfortable. So I lift, I go claw, and then my foot is gonna come right over the top. I can either have it where I'm crossing or where I'm like this. Either one's fine. And now when you have this claw grip, your elbow cannot go to the chest like we did for seatbelt. Because what happens is there's a lot of space between his shoulder and my chest, and it's easier for him to come out. So I wanna make sure that when you're here, your elbow is high. Elbow high and controlling. Now I can pull out my arm, come up to my elbow and start to bridge forward. And then all we're gonna do here is my right arm goes under and I go back to seatbelt, like that. And I can cut through. Because mainly all we're trying to do is get rid of this 2-on-1 on this side. So I lift because he's gonna be controlling this, so I can lift easy, just a little bit of space. I come through and I block. Elbow high, I pull out my elbow, come up. Once I get him onto his side, there's a gap underneath his head. I seatbelt, and now I'm nice and tight. So again, here he goes through. Lift, cut, right? I'm blocking that hip with my foot, and I'm keeping that claw up nice and tight here with my elbow. I can pull out, come up to my elbow, bridge forward. Once there's adequate space, my arm comes under, and I retake it back. So let's do one more facing this way. So he goes here. So I'm gonna lift, I come through, and I cut. And I'm gonna pull, elbow goes up high. Come up to my elbow, bridge forward. Once he's on his side, I come underneath, adjust my hooks. Okay, questions? All right, 1, 2, 3. So we're gonna do the same thing, but your partner's a little bit tighter with their arms. They're not completely tight, but it's mainly his right arm that's so tight where it's kind of blocking me. So here, his right arm is so tight that when I try to lift, there's no gap here at all. But there is a gap on the top side. So I can lift a little bit, cut through, and grab his shoulder. So because he's grabbing 2-on-1 on my wrist, it's gonna be real hard for me to pull out my arm. So you can come up to your elbow, bridge forward, and then pull. And notice how when I'm doing that, I come up, I lift my elbow like this, bridge forward, I can pop. Then I start driving him all the way here with my hand posted versus here, because I need to make more space. Once we're here, I lift and I come underneath. And I can either rear naked choke or connect my hands and adjust my hooks. So again, he goes over, right? This side is so tight here, I can't get through, but I can lift a little bit. There. Elbow, chest, pop. Post all the way up. And notice how my feet are still connected. All right, I'm gonna lift, come underneath. And then seatbelt, adjust my hooks. Again, lift, here. All right, elbows nice and high. I come up, pull, drive him up. I lift, and then I come underneath. Seatbelt, done. One more. Okay, so it's like the same thing we did, just a little bit closer grip. And my grip is like this. I'm grabbing like right here on the top of his shoulder. And then when my elbow's high, I can use this as a wedge to lift. If my elbow's low, I have no connection. So high, lifting, and I can pull, over shoulder. All right, any questions? 1, 2, 3. Because this is what we're doing now is the same thing, same exact thing. All right, he goes over, and he's real tight. This is what we have to deal with. Because if he's real tight, I don't have any gap underneath here to go for his neck. But it's easy for me to just cut over, and we're gonna do the same sequence. I reach over, but instead of going under, I go right over here and I grab his neck. So if I can bridge my hips a little bit forward, it's gonna be a lot more tension on that arm. Because here, if I pull out my arm, it's really strong, right? But if I'm grabbing this claw, right, and I don't, obviously claw would be underneath, but I'm grabbing right here and I'm pulling this in, I'm gonna bridge forward a little bit. Then it's easier for me to pull out my arm and come up to my elbow. Now I do the same thing like I did before. I turn the corner, I post, and he's obviously gonna start grabbing my arm because that's the only arm there. And I come underneath here. And since we're here, lift up your elbow. Drive your bottom arm in, and now slide your left one out so you can have rear naked choke. And my left arm is gonna go behind his back, and then I can squeeze and finish. So the mechanics are the same. It's just a little bit of adjustment in terms of like where we're at. So leg goes over, I'm going here. No space, you can try it, but there's just not much. He's too strong, he's all strained. So I go here, I grab his neck, I bridge forward. If I pull here, it's too much tension. I have to bridge forward to bring my shoulders back. Now he's already slipping. I pull out, elbow, and I post. I want to keep that tight. I lift, under. Now watch how my left elbow goes up. I drive. Now I have the neck 100%. I can finish here, or I can pull this arm out, connect palm to palm, elbow comes behind, and then I finish. Let's scoot up a little closer for me. Yeah, leg way up here. We'll get closer there, bud. So, here, right, he goes. He's nice and tight. Over, grab that neck. I bridge forward, pull, elbow, up, right? He's gonna be grabbing my hand because he feels that. I lift, under. Look how I lift my elbow, and I go right there. I can finish here, or pull out, palm to palm, right behind his head, and then I finish. Last one. Okay, with your partner please. 1, 2, 3.